Welcome, everyone. This is Gustavo Tavares from Top Employers Institute Americas speaking. Welcome all to this first breakout session, Digitalizing the Employee Experience. It's my pleasure to host this session together with great invitees and great guests, some remarkable guests that we're having this afternoon with us. And it will be a great moment for us to discuss and analyze exactly what's going on. So one of the takeaways that we have from Mariana's presentation was to the moon and back. How can we do that in an analogic world? And now we're talking about digitalizing the employee journey. So what's next? What can we do to make this even more interesting? So before introducing our guests, I would like just to explain to you very quickly how this session will go. We have a first segment where we're going to talk about the questions. We have some a round of questions to all the guests. And then after that, we will open to a Q&A session where all the invitees and all the participants will be invited to have their say and ask our questions. So we're good to start. Introducing first our first guest, representing Vodafone Italy, Francesca Magrassi, who is the current head of resourcing and employer branding for Vodafone. She's been working with the company since 2015. She has covered the roles of organization change manager and then HR digital transformation teams. She has contributed to the launch of the first Agile Squad. So, Francesca, good to have you here. Come stai?
Molto bene, grazie. Thank you, Gustavo. Hello, everybody. Very glad to be here today with all of you.
It's a pleasure, Francesca. Great to have you here. Well, our second guest, next up, we have Dr. Niels Bosse, who is the Vice President of HR Organization for Audi Mexico. He has a very large career in developing teams. He has been working with the Volkswagen Group for over 18 years in multiple roles in multiple countries, a very multicultural professional, has been working in China, in Germany, and now he's the the Vice President of Human Resource Organization for Audi Mexico. So, Dr. Niels, thank you for having us here. Buenos dias. Or guten Morgen. I don't know what's better. Guten Morgen or buenos dias?
Los dos. Geht beides. Buenos dias a todos. Here in Mexico, it's 10 a.m., so buenos dias is fine.
Nothing but an event with that spans 7 time zones. So it's a great to have you all here. So it seems how global Top Employers is. And last but not least, our final guest is Eric Dekoninck, who is the global lead or corporate brand of JTI International. He is speaking with us from Switzerland. Eric has a career that is very interesting, is somewhat similar to mine. He started at marketing and then moved to HR positions. He has been with the company since 2008 as a global director for employer branding and talent acquisition, leading the transformation of JTI global end-to-end recruitment process and capabilities. So he's been with this with the company since 2008. As I said, he has been other very interesting experiences in other FMCG companies in UNICEF, United Nations. So, Eric, good to have you here. Thank you. Bonjour.
Thank you, Gustavo, for the nice introduction, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
Great. So to get our session started, I will just start with Francesca asking her the first question and see how can she contribute. And let's make this a very participative, a very interactive session. So please feel absolutely free to interrupt and to ask any questions you might need. So Francesca, Italy has been the first country in Europe to be hit by the pandemic in February last year. So how this impacted the different phases of the employee journey in Vodafone, and how this digitalization of the employee experience supported you to navigate in such complicated moments?
Thanks, Gustavo, for the question. Look, Vodafone is a digital company. We had been digitalizing the employee journey since 2017, so more than 3 years by now. Of course, this had prepared us to face the pandemic emergency, but clearly the emergency accelerated a lot of the things that we were already doing. And let me make some very concrete examples. For existing employees, employees, we had developed an app which is called I Am Vodafone app, and then we used it a lot during the emergency, and especially in the back to office space, because this app is serving us to allow employees to book their slot, to go back to the office, to communicate with the company. So this is a very important piece of digitalization in the employee journey. Mm-hmm. For the new joiners, we had already developed an onboarding portal that was super useful during the pandemic to hire new people. And we further expanded on this, because now also the induction program that we do in the first week in the company is fully digital. Last but not least, for the potential candidates, we had to move everything in a digital format, from career events to the recruiting process itself. And in the last fall, we had a recruiting event for students, for university students, that we called the HR Marathon, that we ran for 2 weeks in a fully digital format. So we think this is something that, of course, we reacted to the emergency, but we improved on digitalization, and it's all about something that it's there to stay also in the future.
Amazing. It's great to see some very nice examples, especially considering that Vodafone is a tech-oriented company, is a digital company from its origin. So it's very nice to hear your examples. Now I'd like to take your examples and try to connect this to another different area. So, for example, Dr. Niels, how does those digitalizing the employee journey, what are we talking about when we're talking about best practice in Audi? How those initiatives are somewhat related or not? What do we see as best practice in Audi Mexico?
Yeah, Gustavo and Francesca, we are on the way to get a digital company. So as an automotive manufacturing company, we are, as you might know, step by step also moving into the direction to get more and more digital. And what also helped us a lot is the implementation and the introduction of our Audi Mexico app, which we use in a similar way like Francesca described it. So it opens us a 2-channel communication with all of our employees, and especially in the pandemic situation, it was very helpful. You might know that in Mexico, the first wave came around 6 to 8 weeks later in comparison to Europe. And so we used all these knowledges and experiences really to get all the information in terms of safety, hygiene recommendations from the government and our safety measures communicated to all of our employees, because the health of our employees has really the highest priority for us. And in addition to that, this app offers a lot of more options. You can, for instance, check the current transportation situation, book seats for transportation, and you can also initiate ideas to this app and to help the company to improve in terms of costs, processes, and so on. So we are really using this in a 2 ways, bilateral communication. And one really striking and very positive example is the last all-employee event, which we had to cancel in the classical form. We have more than 5,200 employees here in this plant, and then we decided to do it completely in a digital way, and therefore also the app within Q&A session helped us a lot.
Excellent. Which is something that you're bringing, that is something that is very remarkable when we talk about digitalization, is about the human experience. So, Eric, it's something that we're seeing in many different situations where, and how do you think the employee journeys in digitalization can support, engage people, and what are you doing in JTI in terms to make this happen?
Thank you, Gustavo, for the question. I think that as for many companies, the digitalization of the employer journey has started many years ago, same for GTI. I think that the pandemic has forced us to accelerate the pace, but also maybe relook at some of the priorities. But I think that overall, the fundamental remains the same. You know, digital is pretty much about, as much as about people, that it is about technology. And what we're looking at in terms of supporting our people is very much making sure that the digital mindset exists so that we can nurture the attitudes and the behaviors so that, we can be much more agile, so that we can much more looking at empowering our employees so that we can create value, not only for the company, for the business, but as well for themselves. And just to give an example on that, something that we started just before the pandemic and has been very useful is that we put together an app which is called LifeWorks, which actually provides employees with a wealth of different solutions and tools about well-being. And well-being is not just something that is about physical health, but it's much more about mental health as well. And that is not just topical because of the pandemic, but this is something that is really part of the development journey of any employee, or at least that should be embedded in any employee life cycle as part of the development. And this app is providing solutions about family, health, life, and work that are very personalized. And we have embarked it across the world. And I think that around 15,000 of our employees are now having access and benefiting from that program. And is growing as I'm hearing. So it's a good example of where technology can help supporting our people as part of the development journey, even when we are in tough situation as we are all currently.
Now, it seems that what is very interesting and now I'm thinking about what you're explaining, and it's interesting how there's a streamline across these three initiatives that we're talking about. So not that technologically they are the same, but it is interesting to see that they are all designed to help people perform better and to connect people with the business and connect people with situations that, especially in this pandemic where we're having to be forced to learn to work in a different way. It's a challenge. So it's an additional challenge. So it's not something that we see before, but it's something that is, it has to be completely put together. Although the three of you have mentioned that these digital solutions have already been in place before the pandemic. So it's very interesting to see how top employers, certified companies tend to be at least one step ahead of the situation. So it's great to see that. Moving on, Francesca, I have another question for you. So how do you imagine the new way of working when the pandemic is over? Was there any good from the pandemic? And what are you going to keep in the future regarding everything that has implemented over this past months?
Look, the pandemic has forced us in some ways, as also my colleagues were commenting earlier on. And in this case, the pandemic forced us to rethink how we work. We had to change overnight. We were all working from home all of a sudden. And we have learned that it can work. It actually works. It's something unexpected. But now we have to decide if we want to keep it in the future. And as a Vodafone Group, our answer is that we have experimented that more flexibility is possible. It works. However, we do not think it is sustainable to work 100% of our time from home, because there is a social aspect, a human aspect, a sense of belonging that needs the co-location and presence all together in the offices. Still, as I said, we will work on further flexibility. Here in Vodafone Italy, we have agreed with our local unions on an experimentation that will start as soon as the emergency period is over. And we are planning to work on a 60-40 approach, meaning 60% of our monthly time will be spent from remote and 40% in the office. This is something that we are gonna experiment and then we will learn from that. But definitely this is the future direction for Vodafone.
And it's great to hear what you're saying, because it has a very strong connection to what we see in the results of our certification for this year, that the people sometimes are mixing up two concepts that to me are very different. So working from home and remote working are totally different things. So when we see the home working is much more complicated. But remote working is totally something different. So, I mean, you don't have the pressure of having the kids and have everybody. So I see that what's happening right now probably has an influence of the whole thing of having kids at home or having other chores. But remote working, I guess it's something that I see very common, and I see very frequently situations are saying so 60%, 60-40 ratios in terms of working from home and working remotely as part of the future or of the next trends for the next years. Dr. Niels, moving to you. In this digital evolution, how do the leaders and the employees of Audi Mexico are taking advantage of digitalization? Because that's probably the biggest question. So when we think about an automaker, so we normally think of people of blue collars assembling cars. So how this is happening to you, how this is working for you, and how they are taking advantage of this whole process?
Yeah, that's a very, very valid and good question, Gustavo. Thanks for that. So first of all, I would like to combine a little bit my answer with Eric's point. So we also combined the question of digitalization with agile working. And we started an initiative, Agile Working at Audi Mexico, basically for all of our employees in different ways. So we started with a survey, and later we went in different other steps. But especially we figured out that it's important for our different target groups and for our different employee groups. Like for managers, for instance, we used a role model program in a digital way to get them really more connected with their team members, to increase innovation, to break a little bit hierarchies, and also to open a try, fail, and learn culture. And there we implemented a set of 21 different options you can select from. And we implemented, for instance, a reading party, where team members can introduce different kinds of books with a connection to their work, to the whole team. And this has a very positive impact on the whole culture. And for instance, another important group for us are the apprentices we have. We have around 200 apprentices in the dual career program. You might know from Germany, exactly the same. And we also digitalized the whole apprentice program here at Audi Mexico for them, so that they were really able, and this is a point we are really proud of, to even improve the results of their exams in comparison to last year. And we got a very positive feedback on that. So digitalization of cultural aspects and of learning aspects, from my perspective, is key.
Excellent. I have to run because we're running out of time. And Eric, I have a final question for you. What are the key areas of employee journey where you were invested to context of digitalization in the last few months? Very Twitter style.
I know you're pressured with time, so I'll try to be sharp. But I think that I would like to reflect on what everything has been said, and more we are investing into our people. And we used to say in GTI that our business ambition starts with our people. So one element where we're investing from a digital perspective is trying to better understand the workplace, trying to better understand the sentiment of our employees across the world, whether they're working in manufacturing plants or whether we're working in HQ. So this is something that we're putting in place, fully digital, so that really can understand the sentiment, what's the culture evolution within the company, and the level of engagement. So it's very important that we're putting into the right elements from a digital perspective to get the data, turning those data into insights, and then even more important, translating those insights into impact. So this is what we're building from a digitalization perspective, so that we can better support people and putting the right action in place to deliver on a better workplace.
Perfect. Right on time, right on spot. Thank you very much for this first round of Heat Up. Now it's time for you, on our audience, to take part of this conversation and send our questions, so we can have these our experts here being contributing and sharing their opinions and their expertise with us. So let's move on, please, with the Q&A session. All right, welcome back. So start for us to have our first questions. Behind us on this big screen, we have the questions from our audience. So all the participants on this breakout session are invited to send their questions to us. And let's see the first question popping up. Come on, guys, don't be shy. All right, I see a lot of things, but let's see. First question, how can we enable a digital mindset to drive digital transformation? Probably I'll take this for you, Francesca. How do we enable digital mindset to drive digital transformation? This question from Paulina Juarez.
Thanks, Paulina. Very interesting question. Definitely not an easy one. When we talk about culture, it's always something that takes time. But I share with you a very practical program that we have launched, and we called it Digital Ninja. We put in touch young experts in the company with more senior people, and the young were training the more senior on digital mindset, on very specific elements, but eventually transferring the overall mindset. So this is one piece of the puzzle.
All right, so let's get Ninja. Next question, please. Thank you, Francesca. Okay, let's see the question. All right, now we have it. So we have a question here from Marius Pistrex. I'm sorry, I probably mispronounced your last name. How do we include or incentivize blue-collar employees into apps usage? This is probably for you, Niels, so please take it away.
Could you repeat the question, Gustavo? I'm not sure if I get it right.
Yes, of course. Let's move back to the big screen and I can read it back to you. So how do you include or incentivize blue-collar employees into apps usage?
Yeah. So basically, as I mentioned beforehand, so the biggest group here in our plant are the blue-collar employees. It's around 4,000 here at Audi Mexico. And all of them, they have a mobile phone, and all of them, or nearly all of them, have also installed the app we are using to communicate with them. I think this is one important element, and we are, to be honest, using always different channels in parallel. So we have the app, we are using classical email formats, and we are also using video formats in the screens we have implemented and installed in overall the production, so that they can use, for instance, the breaks to get their information. And this is our way how we try to send information, receive information. And in addition to that, this is also one point Francesca mentioned. I think it's important to still keep in personal touch. So we are still having our sessions like a tarde de café, a coffee afternoon, where we invite a mixture always of employees and of course also blue-collar employees to discuss different topics around culture, diversity, leadership, and so on. So this is a very important platform for us.
No, and what a great example of paradigm break, because we are always thinking that employees wouldn't be inclined or willing to install an app on their personal phones, especially a work-related app, and it seems that it's a great success. So it's a great example of how can we go disruptive in breaking our own prejudice about having this information, because everybody's willing to get as much information as possible. So having this great example is something that is also very remarkable. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Niels. Next up, let's see another question. Get yourself ready, Eric. You are the one. So Benjamin Welderman is asking, how do you ensure the digital offer is inclusive and considering specific personal needs? Great question to you, Eric.
I think it's a brilliant question for two reasons. The first one is about the inclusiveness, and this is something that is extremely important for us. You know, everyone is talking about diversity and inclusion, but you know, it's the inclusion that is the most important part of the process. And I think that when we're building our digital offer, we need to take into consideration the broad diversity of the organization and how are we building those tools so that actually we reflect on the needs of all the individuals that we have. And being a global company across the different regions of the world, it's very important that we understand that from a personal perspective. And then, as I was mentioning before, making sure that we are genuine and authentic in trying to listen to what everyone within the company has to say. And this is how you build then a digital offer that answers the needs of everyone within the organization.
Yes, to actively listen to people is more important than just giving them voice. It's something that is also, we see very frequently on the top employers that are certified, that this is something that is a big trend, as we see, as a way to empower people and make them more engaged on the workplaces.
Exactly.
So I guess we have time for more questions. So let's go back to our big screen. All right, perfect. So this is the final question. All right, how many more minutes do we have? All right, so I will wrap up then. It's time for us to move to the next breakout session. I would like to thank Francesca for being with us. So Francesca from Vodafone Italy. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you also, Dr. Niels Bosse from Audi Mexico for being us today, and Eric Dekoninck from JTI. Thank you for being here. It was a great session. Hope you enjoy the next ones as well. Thank you. This is Gustavo Tavares from Top Employers America signing up. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gustavo.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Gustavo.
Bye.
Ciao.